Throughout the course Current Issues in Education, several challenges impacting education were unearthed. These hurdles were then explored thoroughly using various strategies such as discussions and debates. These robust discussions have increased my awareness to a number of areas such as change, inclusion, wellness, and sustainability. Hence, this presentation seeks to examine areas of growth and professional development prior to my enrollment to this course. A critical reflection of content will be used to state how this knowledge will influence my teaching practices. In the infamous words of Malcolm X, education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. This alludes that teaching can no longer be done as usual. We cannot continue to teach individuals to live in the future through traditional practices and methodologies, but through new and innovative ways. The COVID-19 pandemic has forced many teachers to change their practices unexpectedly, which was uncomfortable and unfamiliar for most. Living in a technological age and having our environment move from face to face to online caused some teachers to be unable to cater to their students effectively. Some teachers who were unable to cope with these changes and were of age took the opportunity to jump ship because of their inability to adapt. Hence, it was discussed in this module that it is essential for teachers to be able to adapt to the rapid changes to the dynamics of teaching and society. The importance of pre-service teacher training and professional development also arose in order to meet the needs of students. Too often, teachers rely on lecture and drilling practice and being the sage on the stage rather than facilitating lessons to transfer knowledge. We also acknowledge that in some cases, teachers were trained or being trained when going into the classroom. They were faced with several challenges like time constraints and curriculum targets. Because of this, they tend to revert to traditional methods. Although traditional strategies have its place, frequent use of these strategies only produce students who can regurgitate information, which is the opposite of what is needed in this 21st century. We need to produce rounded individuals who can think critically and creatively, among others, to be social reconstructionists. Consequently, change must start with me. I must see the bigger picture that students require these transformations if they are to function in society or in this changing world. Along with me, the ministry and school administrators must find ways to ensure that the established frameworks for reflection and appraisals are utilized within the classroom to maintain a level of quality content delivery. Teachers also Teachers must also embrace the practice of reflection at the personal and professional level in order to be their best self in the classroom and to produce change. As Nelson Mandela stated, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Building on change, we moved to social justice, which arose to equality and inclusion for all. We discussed the aspect of students being disadvantaged in the classroom because of situations they were born into and are beyond their control. Reflecting on the words of Nelson Mandela previously mentioned, and knowing that education is a passport, it is not only limited to changing the world, but to transform lives. Education was initially given to the blacks as a form of oppression, and years after escaping the controls of the whites, some teachers are perpetuating this onto their students. Raina Cooper, 2013, page 56, states that diversity in the classroom means that students will come from a wide range of cultural backgrounds, may speak a first language other than English, and will have a variety of learning abilities and learning styles. Therefore, the teachers must be able to cater to all students and provide equal opportunities for all to succeed. When students are seeing teachers treat other students like they are inferior, this attitude is transferred to their peers. This makes students feel alienated and usually put up negative attitudes towards school and could become deviant. Consequently, if it's not corrected, this deviance can continue into society. With students who have cognitive and physical disabilities, there are some things left out of classes or school as they are not equipped with the necessary resources to facilitate them in the classroom. The others are segregated from other students and placed in separate classroom or special needs unit for them to be catered to. These practices only add insult to injury, as in society, parents with special needs tend to hide away from the world rather than allowing students to have a normal life like any other child. Assessment used across the board are also disadvantageous to these students as well, or to add another layer of social injustice. The common entrance is used to put these students deemed as smart into higher schools as well as ranking these schools. Students that attend the lower ranking schools go through their school life with either a positive or negative stigma attached to them and is carried out throughout life. They must cope with other individuals being favored over them in jobs and opportunities based on the institution they attended. As a result, it is clear that a fair and inclusive for all of national and classroom assessment must be used to eliminate these forms of marginalization. In this module, we indirectly discuss the school and education being more than to enable persons to find a decent job, but to promote personal well-being. Like any other societal issue, the school is used to solve it through education. Similarly, the COVID-19 pandemic highlighted several areas regarding health and safety that must be corrected. Research supports that Caribbean countries struggle with some of the highest rates in non-communicable diseases in the world, hence making the Caribbean population at risk of high mortality rates if they contract COVID-19. This caused health officials to look closely at the lifestyles of citizens in their country and even in schools. Through these observations, they were able to detect high levels of unhealthy food consumptions in school and aim to rectify it through policies and campaigns. However, this is no easy task, so teachers must take up the mantle and help students and parents get on board the initiative. Teachers must also communicate and educate students on health, safety, and wellness. Along with this, COVID-19 has caused several lockdowns and curfew directives. Therefore, the promotion of physical activity has also become an aspect of paramount importance, as obesity is also highly prevalent in the Caribbean. This new normal has also forced all persons to use technology to complete some daily tasks. Hence, it is important for students to understand safety while online, as there are several threats on the internet. This enables students to utilize the internet to prevent danger to themselves, families, and their finances. Health practices must also be used online in terms of screen time and even posture when using these devices. Stemming from this, we also discussed the need to preserve our environment for us to maintain healthy lifestyles. Challenges such as climate change and natural disasters can cause shortages in healthy foods if they are not sustained. Also, in terms of the fishing industry, some seafood bans during specified times of the year to avoid them becoming extinct and being able to replenish themselves. Therefore, teachers must educate students on these topics to improve and sustain life for the future. As we all occupy a space in this world, it is important for us to understand the actions of one country can impact the world either negatively or positively. This helps us to have a sense of responsibility in the world we live in, which is called global citizenship. Establishing that we have a responsibility as occupants of this globe. The Sustainable Development Goals allows us to work cohesively in the eradication of some of the major challenges identified globally. The Caribbean is comprised of several small developing states, and for us to be seen on the international market, we must be able to address our challenges that hinder us from progressing. Caribbean islands are also heavily dependent on external funding, and through the Sustainable Development Goals, countries can be aided with these challenges. Due to our small size in comparison to other territories, the Caribbean is greatly impacted from the actions of larger countries. An example of this is climate change. Caribbean countries, and more specifically Barbados, are doing their part in using alternative methods that are healthy for the environment. However, other countries are not, and we are seeing the effects of this from the erosion around our coastline. We then discussed how education is mainly used to solve these issues. However, the education form used must be transformative education. Basically, this is educating students using theme-based approaches for them to bring about change in the future. This causes students to question societal norms and practices at all levels. Therefore, this requires an in-depth understanding of related content and to think critically and to find creative ways to solve societal problems. Transformative learning should therefore be student-centered, allowing them to construct their own knowledge, and teachers provide the necessary scaffolding needed. Additionally, it should also be collaborative between schools and members of society like the community as well as businesses. When we achieve this, this is when we will see true transformation. The topic that appealed to me most in this course was fostering independent learners in students with cognitive and physical disabilities, where the emerging theme was exclusion. Students with cognitive and physical disabilities are already faced with marginalization in society, and the only place where they can begin to be accepted is in the classroom. The most outstanding aspect in this module was the attitudes of teachers towards these students with disabilities. Teachers and administrators are perceived to be the integral in the implementation of inclusive education. Inclusive education then is linked to teacher attitude and responsiveness and supported by changes at all levels: classroom, school, policymakers and administrators, and the wider society. Blackman, Conrad and Brown, 2012. Throughout my personal and professional life, I have persons have shared their negative experiences about teachers who have negative attitudes towards them because they had difficulty academically. Whether it be a mild case of dyslexia or dyscalculia, they were punished rather than assisted. Even though for some they were able to overcome these challenges, they always remember those distasteful memories. For some, they even admitted that they hated school and was unable to really maximize on education at higher levels due to deficits that were never filled. Knight and Ogunkola 2016 explored how these negative attitudes can lead to potential exclusion, which is highly prevalent in the Caribbean. Personally, I have also had these negative experiences, but it's only after completing teacher training and this course that the absence of teacher training among other teachers could be the result of these negative attitudes. According to Blackman, Conrad and Brown 2012, effective teacher training can bridge the gap between the included and excluded, the privileged and the marginalized. Therefore, children and their unique characteristics must not be viewed as a problem. Rather, they present a unique opportunities for teachers to use evidence-based practices that supports as many students in the classroom as possible. Blackman et al. 2019. It is also not the sole responsibility of the teacher to cater to these students, but for all stakeholders to play their part. Blackman et al. 2019 states that the role of the principal, therefore, is is even more critical in advocating for teacher training and professional development of staff. This ensures that all teachers are fully equipped to positively impact their charges. Fortunately, I am among the teachers that were trained before entering the classroom. However, this information reiterates the importance of persons like myself to be the change needed within the classroom. I can do this by attaining a comprehensive understanding of strengths, weaknesses, background information on the child's history and development, and information on any family factors that may affect the child's learning. Central Board of Secondary Education 2020. In addition to knowing students individually, school teachers must have a sound knowledge of different types of special needs. Hornby 2015. Having a greater understanding of the challenges students have due to their disabilities allows me to have a realistic expectation of students in my care. Realistic expectations for each child based on where they are at cognitively and physically allows teachers as well as their parents to have a true representation of their progress. The Caribbean Symposium on Inclusive Education 2007 indicates that there was a need for curricula to be revised to recognize and address multiple intelligences. They also added that it should be child-centered, encourage active learning, and be relevant to and inclusive diversity, not only to the learners, but to teachers. A child-centered curriculum is characterized by the move away from rote learning and towards greater emphasis on hands-on, experience-based, active, cooperative learning. UNESCO 2009. This basically suggests that there is a need for uniqueness in content. This is only accomplished by using creative instruction. Differentiated instruction can enable students with a wide range of abilities from gifted students to those with mild or even severe disabilities to receive an appropriate education in inclusive classrooms. It should also be noted that this differentiated instruction should not only be implemented for lessons but for assessment. Students should be allowed to demonstrate their learning through formative assessments in multiple ways rather than only written assignments. Central Board of Secondary Education 2020. According to Inclusive School Community, the core component of a successful inclusive school involves reflection. Therefore, I must understand the pupil's reaction to what is being taught, since teaching is only meaningful and have relevance if the pupil acquires the content. UNESCO 2009. Reflective practices help teachers recognize where there may be potential to inadvertently exclude or disadvantage certain students. Skekington 2018 expresses that troubleshooting issues as they arise should be a regular practice of teachers. Reflection improves teachers' abilities to effect purposeful change and integrate various aspects of teaching. Al-Ansim 2019 points that reflection requires critical thinking, which results in critical reflection. Taking time to think back, to ponder things, to make connections, to analyze, to assimilate, to make sense of a situation is what constitutes critical reflection. Hence, teachers must be able to reflect in teaching practices in order to determine if instruction is successful and to acknowledge their own error. Reflective practices involve thinking about and learning from your practice and the practice of others to gain new perspectives on dilemmas and contradictions inherent to your educational situation, improve judgment, and increase the probability of making informed actions when situations are complex, unique, and uncertain. All of these are ways in which my knowledge can be used to positively affect my teaching practices.